Released 9 years ago, the original The Fast and the Furious not only launched the careers of nearly all of its stars, it was also a major blockbuster hit, spawning 3 successful sequels. Set amongst the seedy underground of an apparently large network of illegal street racers, the film is about Brian O'Connor, an undercover police officer who finds himself getting a bit too close to his mark, the king of the street racers, Dom Toretto, played by Vin Diesel. Paul Walker portrays O'Connor, an up-and-coming officer who is trying to impress his department heads and get a raise, but first he has to impress his fellow street racers. Before O'Connor is revealed as an undercover operative, the first 30 minutes of The Fast and the Furious are an exciting and educational journey into LA's underground racing gangs. But they're also void of any real substance or purpose. Luckily, the middle act of the film begins to introduce some much-needed conflict and plot. However, it's also at the expense of the aforementioned action and glamour that preceded it. Walker and Diesel do a decent enough job here, bouncing off one another in the film, acting as much as they're required to, but neither one is really challenged on an emotional level. In one of her first significant supporting roles, Michelle Rodriguez is even worse, mostly just grunting and saying some tough one-liners, while frowning for most of the film. As Dom's sister and Brian's love interest, Mia, Jordana Brewster is perhaps the lone member of the cast who really stands out in her performance, bringing to life an otherwise one-dimensional character. When the film isn't bogging itself down with unoriginal, undercover created dilemmas, and focusing instead on the car racing and action scenes, The Fast and the Furious really shines. Almost a decade old, these edge-of-your-seat sequences are still amazing orgies of sound and vision, expertly edited at a blistering, nail-biting pace. Although the film does little to convince you that Vin Diesel is a good actor, or that dropping $20,000 into a 1995 Honda Civic is a good idea, the movie does do a great job of providing some good old-fashioned entertainment. Nothing groundbreaking here, instead a fresh and gritty take on a well-established formula. And it pays off for the film, it's fun and exciting to watch. Well, that's what I had to say about The Fast and the Furious. Now let's see what you guys said in the YouTube comments. The Renkin wrote, "Some of the most over-the-top and ridiculous getaway and race scenes, as well as some of the worst one-liners in movie history. But it's so bad it's good. 7 out of 10. Raphael 1991 Metal wrote, "Slightly predictable and fun action movie. Average acting and storyline with awesome action. Since you don't watch an action movie for acting, 8 out of 10. Well, you've heard from me and we've heard from you, so now let's kick the show into third gear and fire up the Rate-O-Matic for The Fast and the Furious." A cool and a great. While this movie was average and uninspiring in most scenes, the thrilling action more than made up for it. I gotta give it a 7. You folks mostly agreed, with several of you claiming that the fast cars alone made this movie worth a 10. In the end, your scores averaged to an 8.